All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is Digital Vision World's Webinar Wednesday. This is our part 2 of our 3-part color grading series with Chris Packman. This is color grading 102. We're going to start off much like we did the last time we did our color grading 101 webinar. I'll hand it over to Chris. He'll take us through his webinar, and then we will have a 10-minute Q&A session at the very end. I can see we already have one question about the day 1 recording. We do have a link on our YouTube channel to watch the full recording along with all of the resources and the PDF that goes along with it. I will send out an email after this webinar with all of the information for that. So I'm going to hand it over to Chris. Take it away.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Right, let's start with a bit of a presentation. Let's start with that. Okay, so if you remember last time, we talked about what to look for in grading an image, and when an image is well graded, you've got no black crushing, no white crushing. The video is a good overall level, and you've not got space underneath it, lift, or loads and loads of space up the top of it, not enough gain. And this image we've got on the screen is a well-graded image. It looks nice. Now today we're going to take that into the color world and see how that looks color-wise. And this next image, fortunately, this is suffering from what's known as a color lift error. And if you look on the waveform monitor over here on the left, you can actually see under the red waveform, there's a great big gap. And that's where there's what's called red color lift. Color lift errors are quite common. It's quite a common error to get. They don't look very nice. As you can see, it's not affecting the midtones very much, well, a bit, and it's hardly affecting the gain. But the blacks are really, really red. And as I say, that's what's called a color lift error. Quite common. The next one we've got to talk about is a color gain error. And now this time, as you can see, it's gone rather pink. The red gain is up much higher than the green and blue gain. And you can see the green and blue gains are much further down. The whites and the sky and everything have gone very pink, but the blacks are still fairly black, but a bit red. And again, color gain error is very common, and this is what to look for in a color gain error. It tends to happen all in the white region of the colors. Next one is more subtle, color gamma. We learned last time about how important the gamma is to the picture, and how kind of much effect it has on the picture. And so a color gamma error, again, is not quite as easy to spot. And as you can see, the color gamma error is mostly in the midtones. The whites are a little bit pink and the blacks are a little bit pink, but the midtones down here by this path and things like that are quite pink, and that's what you often spot in a color gamma error. So those are the classic three: the lift error, the gain error, and the gamma error. Final one we're going to talk about, this is a color hue error. Don't tend to see this as often these days. They're not quite as violent as this one. I made this one quite violent to make it show up. They're fairly common if you're dealing with X525 NTSC archive. That's archive that comes from countries that use the NTSC system. So that's America, South America, Japan, and Asia. Very common when dealing with archive from those sort of countries. You'll need to use the hue control to get yourself out of it. Tends to have this kind of effect, produces very magenta reds and very, very weird greens, and it's fairly easily spotted. So that's a color hue error. Right, let's stop sharing that, and let's share our Nucoda. So let's fire up Nucoda. You should now have the Nucoda, and we'll start by creating a project, and we'll call it Color Grading 102. We'll go for a video SMPTE color space because we're not, most of our material that we're going to import is ordinary Rec 709 video. So we don't want log or anything complicated like that. We can go video legal because that's nice and safe and nice and easy to deal with. We're going to go 1080p because it's 1080. 25 frames a second, 10-bit because that's a good size. I'm deliberately going to go for auto fit here, and what that does, my source material is 720p. That's to keep it fairly small so you can download it fairly easily. And what I'm going to do is zoom it up to 1080, and we do this using this auto fit tab, and it does it all for us. It's really ingenious, it's really nice. So color grading 102, and we're off so we can open this project. So I'll import some material. So I'll go to color 102 and I'll import the .mov. I'll say good to that. And my .mov is imported. And I'll go to new composition, which starts me a new timeline. And I'll drop the media, which is all as one piece of media, down on the V1, and it will pop that onto the timeline for me. And now, as you see, I've got one big piece of media. Not an uncommon way to work, one piece of media. But conveniently enough, our editors provided us with an EDL. And that EDLs are this really nice, simple, oldie worldy things, EDL. EDL stands for Edit Decision List. And they're very easy text files. You can read them in WordPad or anything like that. They have recorder ins, recorder outs, player ins and player outs. You can do lots more with them, but that's the simple form. The common form that we use in Nucoda is called CMX 3600, and it's an absolutely industry standard format of EDL format. You'll see it in every program, Avid, Premiere, Poggle, they all support it. So it's a really common format. On the document, I've shot on the PDF, you'll actually see an illustration of what an EDL looks like, and you can see it. So what I'm now going to do is I do import, and I import my EDL and say import. It gives me a dialog and says, what do I want to do with it? And what we've got on Nucoda is a really nice mode. And what you can do is say, record events only to mark current composition. So what I'm going to do is put cuts into the recorded timeline in the right place. So if I now say import, it'll think about it, and I'll close. And if I scroll back, there's all my cuts, as if by magic. So I've now got my shots. And if I now go to memories up here, we should be able to start to see our shots. And we've got our shots. They're all looking kind of nice. And someone put a log file in the middle of it. So we talked about this last time. We made the whole timeline LUTted last time. And what we can do with this is we've only got 2 shots that are log. So we just want to make these 2 shots LUTted. And what we can do with this is we can come up here to where it says channel mixer and go to color management and LUT. What we can now do is add an input effects node, and it says LUT. And it says LUT path. So what I can now do is go down here. I can go to Blackmagic and BMCC to Rec 709, and there's my LUT. Now, that's all nice and easy. You wouldn't want to do, obviously that's quite fiddly, and you might have lots of those shots in your timeline. So what we can do is we can make use of the memories. And what we can do is if we come up here to where it says 1, and I go save note, it saves that little note in store 1. And what I can now do is click on my next shot, which is also log, and double click on 1 and apply my previous grading. So I've now applied my LUT. And so I've got my LUT. My 2 LUTted shots are LUTted. And next thing, we've got a load of archive. And the editor's used it with the cuts internally. So what I now need to do is add those cuts into my timeline. So what I can do is use the scene detect feature. And if I put an in here using the I button to start it, to stop me having to go through all the stuff we've already done, we can use this little button here, which is the scene detect button. And what it will do is whiz through and put all the cuts in for me from the archive material. If I click on that, right, it won't do it in screen share. Let me just stop sharing a sec and come back to me a sec. I'll just come back and I'll do the let's try again. There it goes. So it's now detecting the cuts, and as you can see, it's popping them in for us. You actually see one's appeared, there's another one. And it does this really, really reliably. It's a really easy way to do it. And so it's putting the cuts in the right places. I scroll along. The nice thing about Nucoda is it actually do multiple things at once. So actually now we can go and do other things, because that will sit and do itself, and it's not very exciting. So we can now sort of talk about colour and things like that. So we go to our first shot, and we're going to grade it. And first things first, we need to remember that saying I told you about last time. Grading's like building houses. Get the black and whites of the image right first, get the gamma right, and then worry about the colour. So what we're going to do, this is a bit lifted and a bit washed out at the moment, so I'm going to sit it down a bit, sort of like that. I'm going to stretch the gamma a little bit, and now I'm left with the midtones are a bit blue. So what I'm going to do is push away from the blue in the midtones. Here we go, pushing away from the blue. We've actually now got quite a nice neutral image. So that's a nice easy one. We'll scroll on to our next shot. And again, it was shot late afternoon and the sun was going down and it was on the north side of it. So it's got that sort of bluey end of the day feel. So if we just take the lift down, take the gamma up a little bit, and again take this blue out from the midtones, starting to look quite nice. And actually we could go a bit sunsetty, which would be nice. There we go, that's actually quite nice there. That's actually quite nice. This was shot round the other way, and as I said, it was end of the day, so it was quite sunsetty. It was a bit over sunsetty. So what we'll do now is we'll push the gain round the other way. So this is a colour gain error, really. We're going round the other way now. And so we're neutralising it, and we'll take a bit of that blue out the shadows. And actually now we've got quite a nice image. It's just a bit dark. That's nicer. There we go. Nice and easy. By the point I got to this end of the road, it was getting really, really end of the day. So I'll just stretch the midtones, go with the contrast. That's actually really nice. Yeah, it's kind of quite sexy. Again, just bring down the low lights just to bring out the shadows. Just take the end of the day feel out a little bit, and that's looking really nice. Ooh, something a bit different. Right, so this is a bit lifted. So I'm going to take the lift out. Tiny bit of extra gain. Starting to look quite nice. Might stretch the gamma a little bit. Yeah, it's nicer. Colour-wise, it's quite nice. We're not going to do anything with the colour. Okay, so Piccadilly Circus before they took it to bits. Tiny bit of extra gain, looking nice. Some people on the bike ride, a bit of a stretch. Tiny bit greeny in the mid-tones, let's take that out, that's nicer, that's looking nicer. Ooh. So Horse Guards Parade, let's give it a bit more gain. That's looking nice. Now it's gone a bit pink, so what we'll do is we'll ease off on the pinkiness. That's looking quite nice. We can have a bit more gain again now. And the blue sky is beginning to show quite nicely now. We could just push that blue a little bit harder on the blue sky and really bring out that blue sky. That's looking nice. And actually, that's looking really, really nice now. It's a tiny bit contrasty. Let's just ease off on the contrast a little. That's better. That's Horse Guards Parade. So this one's again looking a bit lifted. Let's pull down the shadows. Pull up the mid-tones a little bit. And we'll come to something else in a minute to help that one. Let's try this one. Yeah, just a bit pink again. That's feeling quite nice. So now we come to our log shot, and I've deliberately held it back because there's nice detail. The sun was just going down outside, so I just wanted those clouds in it. And there's a fake tungsten light on it. So hopefully, if we stretch this up, go to balance. Yeah, here we go. I thought that would all be there. The LED lights are a very funny colour. So if we just push a bit of blue in there. Ooh, that didn't work. Oh, that's better. That's kind of helping a bit. Let's take a tiny bit of red out of there. It's starting to look quite nice. But that LED light is a very funny colour. Yeah, that's looking quite nice. So we've got a billboard outside, so we bring that down again to give it some contrast and push the gain up. Colour-wise, it feels pretty good. It's a bit cool. Let's just warm the mid-tones a little bit and just bring out the mid-tones. That's much nicer. Yeah, it's much nicer. See how a little bit of extra warmth in the mid-tones just helps and makes it look nice. And oh dear, right, okay. So our archive, this was the only source they had available. Yeah, this is a common fault with film that is old. It's the green layer breaks down and it goes pink. And it's really, really common, and it's horrible, as you can see. So we've got our work cut out. So first things first, we do anything. Let's take all this pink out. So that's a good start. Give it some gain. Sit the lift down, and it's come very pink again. So now if we go, take the lift error out. Now take a tiny bit of green gamma in there. See if it will force a bit of blue into it just to bring out the, there we go. Tiny bit of green gamma again. Well, our water's nearly blue. Our ship's white. Well, actually, it's starting to look quite reasonable. So what we'll do now, because we've got lots of those shots. Now the other, let's deal with the first. Let's make a note. So if we go to note 5 and do a save note. So we've saved our ship. The other problem that's wrong with this is the aspect ratio is wrong. It's a bit of a funny shape. So what we can do is go down here to the master layer and go down to pan and scan. And if we go down to scale X and scale Y, this is 4:3 material that's actually been brought out to 16:9. And if you work the maths out on that, it's 0.75. So if we scale the Y by 0.75, it wasn't Y, it was X. So if we scale X by 0.75, there we go, our ship's the right shape. So if we now do save note, and what we can now do, we know that is going to be the same. So if we double click on that, we select up here to say recall all this information, because there's a little thing that allows us to select everything, and do recall. As if by magic, a colour appears. What we can do is we scroll to the end of this material, which is there. We do select, we go to our material we've graded and do shift select. It all turns orange. What we can now do is recall and undo our select, and it will apply that grade to all of it. What we can now do is, having got a base correction on it, is go through and just tweak it so it looks nice. So we could just, the tiniest bit of extra blue in the sky, that would be really nice. That's better. That'll do. We like that. So we'll try our next shot. It's a bit dingy. Let's just go up a little bit. That's better. Just ease a bit of the red out of it in the mid-tones. That's looking nice. Just give that one a bit more gain. Tiny bit of green up the mid-tones, and that's looking nice. Tiny bit of blue in the highlights, perhaps, just to give it a bit of sunshine. Oh, there we go. That's nicer. There we go. The ship's sailing away. That looks nice. Yeah, that's looking good. And oh, right, okay, we seem to have moved somewhere. So some more archive that looks a bit weird. Scotland in winter, I'm told. So first of all, what we'll do is try and equalise the look of it. So we'll do that for starters. It's a bit dim, so we'll come up there like that. Just sit the levels down. We'll try to take this blue colour lift, and you can clearly see it's blue colour lift. That's better. And now just sit it back down again. It's looking nice. It's a tiny bit contrasty, so we'll ease the contrast out of it. Just ease that red in the mid-tones out. That's looking quite nice. Let's do our pan and scan modification to it. So pan and scan and scale X 0.75. 5. That's got it the right shape. So if we go to store 6 and do save note, what we can do now is do select, go to the end of the timeline, shift select, and recall. And that don't think that setting worked. Ah, worked to start with. Okay, right. So we've got our snow. Let's have a look at the next shot. That's not bad. It's all right. We quite like that. Go to our next shot. It's very blue. Let's see if we can take this blue lift out of it. That's better. We'll store that in 7. Let's recall that. That's better, yeah. Do a recall again. So our Land Rover is now looking quite neutral and it's looking quite nice. This is typical of the sort of issues you get with archived material. Very, very typical. So we can recall again. Oh, it's too far. That time it's gone yellow. So we'll just back that off a little bit. Yeah, it's quite nice. He's a bit yellow. That's better. So we've got some aircraft. They're looking nicer now. Yeah, it's looking quite nice. This one's a tiny bit on the red side, so I'm just going to ease the red out. That's better. There we go. Tiny bit of blue. As you see, because I've got the basics right now, I only need to actually work just on top of my settings, just to ease the sort of settings to get it looking nice. Here we go. Again, let's just our aircraft taking off. The aviation enthusiasts, I think it's an airspeed ambassador. Ooh, it's gone really end of the day now. I think this is end of the day. I'm just trying to use a bit of blue out of it just to see how it goes. Oh, that's all right. There we go. Yeah, it's got the blue out. That's better. Oh, yes, that really was end of the day. Don't think we're going to get much of that out. Tend to go with an end of the day look for that one. Wind the saturation down a little bit. It's a bit strong at the moment. Really is end of the day. Car's got his headlights on, so it's definitely end of the day. Where's minor? Just to ease the blue out the lift again. You see the effect that it has, just easing that blue out and neutralizing the image. And we can just bring brown the shadows just to help us and just neutralize the whites, and that's now looking really nice. So that's a little timeline graded, and it's looking really, really nice. So we've been through quite a few things there. Let's find out. Right. So we've got this shot, and one of the things we'd often like to do is to grade areas. And Nucoda has plenty of support for grading shapes. And this is a typical example where we might want to do something a bit different with the sky. It's a bit burnt and it's a shame, we really want to keep it. So the first thing we're going to do is add a new layer, because it's really good when you're working with things like this to work in layers rather than trying to do everything in the base layer. Add a layer, then if you don't like it or it doesn't work, you can just delete the layer and get back to where you were. It's a really nice way of working. So we'll add a color correction layer. So it now says layer 1. And if we go to shapes, Bezier, and I can zoom using my mouse roller wheel the image here. What I can now do is put some Bezier points in. Complete my shape. And I'm going to just put a little bit of outer softness in. Let's try 5. Okay, 5's not a good number. Oh, it's that sort of number. Okay. 0.2's still a bit big. That's a good number, like that, 0.09. It's quite good. So now what I can do is I can now go to balance, and I can now grade just our sky image, sky bit. And I could put some gamma onto it, and just sit it down a bit, just bring it out, and my softness is nicely helping it blend into the trees, and it's looking really, really nice. Looks really blended in, and I brought me clouds out, which is really nice. So that's a simple, easy shape. You can have lots of those, and you can do them you can also do polygons, you can do ellipses, you can do rectangles, and you can track them. So you've got lots of things you can do with shapes. So that's a few things to try with shapes. I think that's about it, really. I think we're about at the end of it. Next time we'll talk about secondary color correction and a look, and as I say, giving things a look. So I'll hand back to Thea.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Chris. So we'll have a Q&A for up to 10 minutes, depending on how many questions there are. And Chris, so for color grading 103, that will be the last one.
That'll be the last one, yeah.
And we'll be holding that next month. So keep an eye on our social media for when we'll be doing that. No questions so far, Chris.
No questions. Wow.
Can you just go over for us again what you'll cover in the next bit?
Yeah. So next time we'll cover secondary color correction, and we'll do a look and see if we can apply a look to something, to one of our timelines we've already got.
Excellent. And for that one, you'll be using the same clips.
Same. We'll probably use the media. We'll probably use the media we use for color 101.
Brilliant. Well, if there are no questions, I think we'll leave it at that, Chris.
Yep. Okay.
So as I said before, I'll send out an email, much like I did with the last webinar, that will link to this recording on our YouTube channel, as well as a handy PDF guide and a link to all the resources so that you can download the clips that Chris used today and practice on your own time. As always, thank you so much for attending our webinar Wednesday, and we'll see you all next time. Great. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks. Bye-bye.